Today we're talking about how to harm none. And this is a tough one because I think that, as you may notice, existing on Earth is a form of harm. It's to eat is to kill usually, to walk on the grass. This is how I felt when I was depressed. When I felt the pain of existence, and I felt like everything I did was just going to hurt somebody else. I didn't feel like anything that I did was actually going to be benefiting anyone else. So, as always, from my perspective, coming from this very dramatic paradigm of being completely distraught, completely depressed, just absolutely dejected about life, and figuring out how to be stable, how to be healthy, this is where Unicult principles developed. So if you feel any semblance of these emotions of feeling guilty for existing, feeling guilty for surviving, this sermon will really be helping you. And even if not, if you're just a regular person, you want to figure out how to be a better person, how to harm less people, how to do less harm, this is the sermon for you. So when we say harm none, if you're a cynic or you're depressed or you have any kind of negative, cynical viewpoint, that might sound like gobbledygook. It might sound like some kind of fantasy reality. In Buddhism, they say, like life is suffering, and we have all these ideas that like existence is pain, and to live is to die, and we have all these toxic ways of viewing the world. And for some people, maybe they're not toxic. For some people, it's a balanced way of thinking about things. For me, it's not. For me, that takes my energy and it brings it down, and I don't feel joyous. I don't feel excited about living. If I can feel that there's potential for me in the future to live in a way that causes no harm, that only causes benefit, that's what gives me joy. That's what inspires me. That's what fills my body up with energy. That's what makes me want to go on. That's what I desire. So from the place of analyzing your own internal emotional response about the world and figuring out what is the belief that makes me feel hope? What is the belief that makes me feel inspired? What is the belief that makes me feel full of life? What is the belief that I can work toward to make my life better and more enriching? If you're going to just believe, oh, we should be not harming anybody, but I'm a terrible person and I'm harming everybody, that's not going to help you. It's going to make you feel even worse. So figure out how you're relating to these concepts as well. Believe in your ability to work toward that energy of not harming anybody. Figure out your ability of how to move into a state of higher awareness so that you are radiating positivity in the sense that you are affecting all things in your life positively. The way that I think is the best way to start talking about harming no one is to start with the self. Your own consciousness is your domain. Your own consciousness is your God-given right for control. You have the ability to interact with your own consciousness that no one else has. So when we're talking about harming none, we start with the self. We say begin within. We start with your own consciousness. Are you harming yourself? You can't just go out in the world and harm yourself and expect never to cause harm to other people. There's a lot of beliefs on this planet that think that that's how to do things. They think, well, if I suffer, if I'm poor, if I don't desire anything and I just am downtrodden, then maybe I can devote myself to helping others. There's a really strong perception of that. I think there's a lot of that in Christian values. And I think especially in the gendered world of being a Christian woman. When I was in middle school, I was really into Christianity, and I was really into this idea of forgiveness and unconditional love, and I loved that God represented that. And I was a little confused about all the I'm a jealous God and bringing plagues on people. That doesn't really seem unconditionally loving. But the idea that God was unconditionally loving and that we should be unconditionally loving as well really was very inspiring to me. But I had an abusive parent, and so I kept forgiving them, and they kept being worse to me. And the more I let them get away with, pretty much, the more they were worse to me. So I was like, this is not a good way to be, because you become a doormat. You become somebody who other people walk over, and it will completely disintegrate yourself into misery, into nothingness. And you're not doing good for people. If you let other people treat you badly or abuse you, You're not helping them, because all they're doing is knowing, oh, I can continue abusing this person. And you're actually helping create more cycles of abuse. So unconditional love isn't about sacrificing the self for others. It can never be that, because you are only as joyous, you are only radiating the light that you yourself can cultivate inside of yourself. So unconditional love is about finding your own joy, finding your own self-love, and loving yourself enough to set boundaries for abuse. Loving yourself enough to protect yourself like you would protect someone else. Finding a path of harming no one starts with figuring out how to protect the self. We have a lot of concepts of selfishness being a negative attribute. And we have no way to distinguish between the selfishness of self-preservation and of creating a more joyous reality so that that can radiate out to others, and the selfishness of trying to get what you can from other people and hurting other people as you try to build yourself up. We don't have any conception of those two things, but in Unicult, we are here to understand the distinctions, the nuance understandings, that to be selfish is not all one thing. To stand up for yourself and to have radical self-love and to be selfish to the point that, to be selfish and vain, to the point that you care about yourself enough to not allow other people to treat you badly, to glorify your own energy, your own divinity, to the point that you know that you can do what causes you to be happy, is a different type of selfishness, is a good type of selfishness, compared to the selfishness of, I'm miserable, so I'm going to make you miserable, and I'm going to connive and steal and try to trick you so that I can get ahead. And I guess the difference is a little bit material or egoic. If you're trying to get attention, or you're trying to get material things, or you're trying to get things that make you think you should feel better about yourself or make you present better in the world, that's not, and you're hurting other people to do that, that's not a good kind of selfishness. But if you're simply setting boundaries and feeling into your own energy so that you can actually develop your spiritual understanding of who you are, so you can actually radiate out a higher divinity and more kindness and more patience, then that is the type of selfishness that is good to follow. Because we don't have this distinction, a lot of times people don't feel right about putting this energy into themselves. They don't feel right about standing up for themselves. They don't feel right about saying what they really need. But I promise you, if you want to follow a path of harming no one, and this is like especially a lesson for empathic people who have just taken abuse their whole life because they felt like that was what people wanted, this is your lesson. You have to take care of yourself. First and foremost, your own consciousness is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to rise up and protect yourself. That is your domain. That is your responsibility. That is your power. That is your right. So when we talk about harming no one, it can get a little bit murky. It can get a little bit confusing. Let's say that you're a gay teenager, and your parents, you know they're going to be just totally hurt by this fact. And they're going to say, oh my God, you're going to hell. We can never talk to you again. We're kicking you out. We don't want anything to do with you. You know they're going to disown you. And you know they're going to be crying every day because of it and just totally distraught. Most people, their initial thought is, wow, I don't want to cause the harm to my parents, so I'll repress my true self. And I'll try to be what they want me to be because I want to be a good person. I don't want to harm anybody. But you're not following this rule that you have to start within yourself. You will absolutely never find joy by repressing your authentic self. That road does not lead to joy. Repression never leads to joy. It leads to illness, it leads to anger, it leads to sickness, it leads to depression, it leads to internal nightmares. If you meditate and you figure out who you really are, you say, wow, I'm pretty sure I'm a gay teenager. I've known for a while. I know my parents are going to be distraught. First of all, take care of yourself. If there's a balance here, these things are more complicated. If there's a balance and you're like, well, I need to take care of myself in the sense I don't want to be homeless, then maybe you figure out how to navigate the situation with your parents while maybe not being authentic, and it's hard when you're a teenager. But as soon as you can feel safe to be your authentic self, you cannot worry about other people's judgmental reaction to that. Other people will always respond to you with fear and pain. The fear and pain of judgment are not yours to carry. As someone who's living in their truth, who's doing what is right for them, if you're hurting other people by being your true self, in the sense that they are triggered, they are hurt because they think you should be something you're not, that's not the type of harm that you need to try to avoid causing. Because that is truth. You're being your true self, and they have to face a part of themselves which they don't like. This is hard to communicate. These are hard concepts to communicate. When you come from a place of love, when you come from a place of health, which is non-repression, which is empathy and caring about other people and caring about yourself and trying to understand who you are and how you fit into that, and you understand the law of all one, then you can be more confident that when you cause other people to have meltdowns, that's their own meltdown. I'm not saying that you say, this is the question people love to ask, oh, so I found out that my true self loves to murder people. My true self is a serial killer. So I shouldn't worry about hurting other people because I'm going to go around killing people. No. Physical harm and taking someone else's ability to restricting someone else is not all one. Restricting someone else by hurting them, restricting someone else by killing them, restricting somebody else by manipulating them. If you're actually purposefully harming other people, that's not divinity. What other people might say is harm might not actually be your ability to control, because you are just going to be living in your light. So the law of all one is the understanding that whatever you do in your own reality, whatever you do to others, you're having done to yourself instantly. There is instant karma involved. If you lie to someone, there is a twisted hurt in your heart as you do it. You might not feel it because you might be numb to it, but I guarantee everyone has a compass inside of them. And maybe, psychopaths don't, I don't know. And that's a different topic if you really don't have this feeling. But when you're coming at most people, the average person has a visceral, physical, negative, detrimental, unhealthy feeling when they do something that they know is going to purposefully harm another person. So if you are living in your truth and you say, I'm a religious leader, I'm from space, the way that I live my life is to be radically authentic with who I am. I have a very hard time repressing myself, and when I do, I feel sick and bad, and I actually end up causing more harm in my life. Whereas, if I'm aligned with who I truly am, and I focus on helping myself, my own energy radiate, the stronger and the brighter my energy can radiate, the less often things rock me or affect me, because I know that I live in a state of love, and I can see everyone else for where they're at, and I care. I listen to other people and where they're at, and I use it to constantly improve myself. I trust that I'm a good person, and I trust that what I'm doing is helping the world. I'm not saying I never make mistakes. I'm not saying there aren't things I don't overlook. Sometimes I do, and it's about constantly aligning with this energy. There's no instant fix. You can't just instantly be some kind of a saint and never harm another person, never harm another creature again. but you can constantly align yourself with who you really are, with the compass of your heart, which tells you what's right and what's wrong to do, what's detrimental and what's beneficial to you and others. These things are inextricably linked. When you do something that's truly good for you, it is also truly good for the world. That's just truth. If you do something that's harmful to the world, it also harms you. We are inextricably linked in this way. If you are, for instance me, walking around triggering people left and right with who you are because you're radical, you're just radical for who you are, if you're not trying to harm other people, and it's only a conceptual meltdown that people are having, then I think you're good. Because what you're doing is you're encouraging other people to live and face authenticity. For so long, the people on this planet have repressed themselves, have made themselves into boxes so that everyone else can feel safe, not being surprised by anyone's true self, and having the predictability of conformity. But that actually is harmful. It's harmful to the individual and it's harmful to the collective. It doesn't allow for the greatest amount of growth or the greatest amount of radiance to flow through the individual or through the collective. So as you go through life, being your authentic self, letting your truth radiate, you will trigger other people who are used to conformity. You will trigger other people who are afraid to acknowledge their own repression, who don't want to look at where they have been tricked or manipulated or brainwashed into acting in a box, to conforming to a social standard that they don't thrive in. People don't like change. People don't like being brave. People just want to go about their lives and not think and not worry. My role here is to shock people out of that. And a lot of people think that they feel hurt by my existence because they don't want to look at who they are or why they're doing what they're doing. And to disintegrate your entire reality is very painful, and they blame me for that. But I don't take that personally because I'm not trying to harm anybody. I'm just living in my light, living in my truth, and sharing what I know to people who want to hear it. I'm not forcing anybody to listen to me. I'm not having Unicult conversion camps or anything like that. I'm just living in my truth and offering assistance to people who want it. So when you think about your own life and you think about harming no one, you have to start with yourself. You have to look into your own consciousness, your own reality, and say, where am I hurting myself? Where am I hurting myself by repressing myself? Where am I hurting myself by not having boundaries? Where am I hurting myself by not protecting myself when it's my responsibility to protect myself, to set these boundaries, and to be a sovereign being who's not reliant or dependent on other people's judgments or conceptions of me? If you find that you are not truly in alignment with your heart and you have been acting out of fear instead of pain, fear or pain instead of love, it can take humility and strength to admit it. So sometimes we do cause harm, and I think it's important to address, what do you do when you cause harm? What do you do when you were purposefully manipulative, you lied, or you hurt somebody because you were being chaotic in your own life, or you were in a lot of pain and you weren't empathizing with other people, you didn't have the space to empathize with other people, you were just experiencing a nightmare and you had to respond in the only way you knew how. What do? You have to rise up to that challenge, apologize if necessary, forgive yourself, and do what you can to replace the fear and pain with confidence and self-love. You have to take every opportunity you can. That means all conflict is an opportunity. Every opportunity you can to recognize where you can learn, grow, and do better in the future. Also, if you have caused pain, what does it help if you cycle on that pain? Oh no, this is what happened to me when I was depressed. Oh no, I caused this pain. I feel bad about causing that pain. I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to cause pain anymore. What do? I caused the pain, and it's just this cycle, this tornado of I have to stop causing the pain. I don't know how to stop causing the pain. I'm in pain. They're in pain. Everyone's in pain. And then the more you get into that frenzy, the more you cause pain. And so if you're trapped in that, what do you feel? For me, I said, I need to get out of here. I need to eliminate the thing that is causing the pain, which I interpreted to be myself, and I tried to kill myself because I didn't want to cause any more pain. I didn't know how to stop the cycle of pain from happening inside my body, outside my body, inside my body, outside my body. It was a reverberation, a double mirror of pain. If you're in that space, the only thing you can do is to say, I'm not going to worry about anything else. I'm only going to worry about the pain inside myself, and I'm going to figure out how to heal it. And you can use other things that are outside of yourself to help you heal that pain. You can take workshops or classes or therapy, find friends, believing in hope that you can ascend the double mirror of pain reality, and understanding that you can transform your life into one that is a radiant state of not really harming other people, of actually reducing the harm that you're doing in the world. Even if you're coming from a purely compassionate state for other people, you have to be selfish and you have to care about yourself first, because the pain inside your body radiates out and causes pain in the world. So by addressing your own pain, by feeling it, by acknowledging it, by knowing that it's valid, by doing the shadow work, by doing the healing, I mean, that's a whole other topic. How do you work through that? But your focus has to start there in order for you to rise up into a higher way of being, which then is in a place where you actually have support to offer. My life is here as an example for you of this to be true. When I was in this depressed state, I didn't think it was possible for someone to live in a way that wasn't causing harm. My paradigm was that everything caused harm. Capitalism causes harm. Eating causes harm. Buying things causes harm. Everything causes harm is how I felt. And in a way, it's true, because the way that this whole planet is structured is out of alignment. But I believe that as we each align ourselves with our own divinity, figuring out how to raise our own vibrations, that the planet will follow, because we're inextricably linked. So as each person figures out how to at least start within themselves and their communities and their families and be a good, responsible, kind, loving, unconditionally loving person for themselves and for the people in their life, that will shift the energy of the planet to the point where we no longer tolerate eating meat. We no longer tolerate capitalism in the way that it is unsustainable. We no longer tolerate mining or sweatshops or any of these things which cause harm, which cause great amounts of harm. We're starting to see an awakening happen on all of these fronts. So as you become more aware of the harms that are happening in the world, don't feel overwhelmed, just feel into yourself and say, what can I do? How can I not cause the most harm that I can cause? One of the things that I think is really important to acknowledge is taking this to a certain point. Let's say that you start worrying, okay, I don't want to cause any harm in the world. I don't want to harm anybody. So I'm not gonna use any plastics. I'm not gonna eat any animal products. I'm not gonna use a phone because of the mining. I'm only gonna eat organic, and and you just have all these things, and then all of a sudden you're so overwhelmed with every single decision that you're in pain. What have you done? You've caused the harm to yourself. So you have to keep an awareness of yourself first and foremost. If you need to use plastic one time, but generally you avoid it. If you need to, whatever, you have to figure out a way to adapt your lifestyle so that you allow yourself to exist in this toxic system, while at the same time doing what you can to minimize the harm that you're causing in a way that makes you feel good. If you're minimizing harm in a certain way, a lot of times vegans fall into this because it's such an obvious dietary choice that everyone should be making. And when you see other people eating meat, it's obviously terrible because you care about animals and you want animals to be safe. a lot of vegans fall into this trap where they start yelling at and abusing the humans in order to protect the animals. That's not how it works, because you're causing harm to the humans in order to protect the animals, but it doesn't usually even end up working. It just creates a divide. So when you're coming from a moral high ground, when you're coming from a place of having made a decision yourself and wanting others to see the benefits of that decision, you have to just lead with inspiration. You have to lead with light so that you can help not cause harm. If you can figure out how to eliminate harm from the entire chain of reality, you're going to be doing more work for the higher vibrational reality, more work for the alignment than anything else. And I don't just mean being a nice person to everybody and not talking about the truth, because that harms you. If you repress yourself, if you repress the truth, if you repress your feelings, you're harming yourself. So there's a lot to think about, but it's actually quite easy once you realize that you have to worry about your own energy first and foremost. And it's okay if that's all you can do. From there, try to eliminate the harm and the fear and the pain that you're experiencing and causing in the world, and do what you can to lead with wisdom, light, unconditional love and understanding. And it's okay if you educate people, but you just have to do so from a place of trying to hold space for other people's realities and trying to do the least amount of harm as possible. Doesn't mean you can't shock people. I shock people all the time. Taking accountability for things that you've done, or for how other people interpret you, or for trying to build a bridge between someone else, even if you know that they're just responding in a way of judgment or fear or pain to you, just living in your truth, it's still good to come from a place of empathy, because you might be able to build a bridge to harmony. And the more you can harmonize yourself, your own energy first, harmony. The more you can harmonize your own energy first, and then harmonize your relationships with others and your communication with others, the least harm you will do. And harm doesn't mean you don't experience conflict. Conflict happens, but harmony through conflict is the highest path. Let me see if I missed anything in this book. This book holds any extra wisdom. Explanations of your personal reality can create a greater understanding between you and the people around you. It is a very harmonious action if done well. Still, your own well-being can be your first priority. So you might be able to explain to your parents, hey, this is my experience, I care about you, I don't know what I can do, instead of just being like, fuck you, mom and dad, I'm gay as fuck. Look at me, I'm in a gay porn. You know, that might be quite shocking to them. I'm not sure if that's the most harmonious thing to do. The more energy you send into pure love for yourself and your surroundings, the more harmony you will exude. So that's how to harm no one. Start with yourself. And let me see if I have any. Thank you for the donations. All right. Thank you for supporting America's Sweetheart, listening to that album. You can listen to it on Bandcamp, Unicole, unicron.bandcamp.com. And I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday. You need bless.